Okay, we are here this afternoon with Lorenzo. Lorenzo works with Pamela Greenwald here at Angel Gardens, and this is another episode of Antique Rose Show. And we're going to learn a little bit about the work that Lorenzo does, and what we have here in the back of his truck. Looks pretty amazing. What do you got going on here?
Well, I've got some heirloom roses here that Pam gives me cuttings for, and I nurture them and take care of them until they start to bloom, and sell them back to her for a wholesale price. And it is just amazing. It's been helping me, have something really productive to do and give me more sense of purpose. And it's just a beautiful art that just feeds my soul. Brings me a lot of joy.
How did you connect with Pam in the first place?
A couple years ago, I was surfing through Facebook, and there was a page someone was promoting, Operation Farm to Health. And I went to this Operation Farm to Health that was geared towards helping to make a more sustainable local food system. And I was growing microgreens at the time.
Ooh, microgreens. Love it.
And I wanted to see how I could get over some hurdles and obstacles that I was encountering. And I knew that this Operation Farm to Health wanted to link up veterans and farmers together. And so I went there, and Pam was on the board. And after, the symposium, I wanted to talk with her a little bit more about growing the roses. And I've always wanted to learn how to make plants from cuttings. So she got me involved,
right? And
it's been awesome.
Yeah, what I want to talk about is, as you were showing here before we started filming this, that you've gone beyond just growing the roses. Tell us a little bit more about some of the other byproducts that you've done with composting and mulching and all of that.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out how to do this as inexpensive, as affordable as possible, and keeping it organic. So I was experimenting with different mixes from the stores, but then I went to a urban farming facility up in Wisconsin last year.
Wow! And
I learned from Will Allen of Growing Power about composting and a little bit of aquaponics and worms. And so I started experimenting with worms and composting, and I went to another farm up in St. Augustine called Dog Day Gardens. And there's a girl there, Shelby, who runs a farm with her partner, and she was given a composting class for $30. So I bought the ticket to the class. I went there, and I found that she had this awesome business model of taking 5-gallon buckets with airtight lids and offering weekly pickups from people in her community and restaurants and businesses. So I thought, well, I could do the same thing.
Sure.
So I got some 5-gallon buckets, and I started going to different restaurants. And it started out with one place, and now I have about 20 different places that I go and I collect from. And I collect about 25 to 30 5-gallon buckets of pre-consumer vegetative waste, and I mix it with mulch and leaves in a hot composting process that takes about 18 days and a lot of turning with a pitchfork.
Right.
And I make some awesome compost that helps feed these roses organically.
What's the name of your company?
Yeah, tell us about your company.
So I incorporated a company called Smarter Farmers earlier this year, and it's actually an acronym, the Smarter.
Right.
Sustainable Management of Agricultural Recycling Technology and Environmental Resolutions. And an offshoot of this Smarter Farmers is a program called My Community Compost.
Right. Okay, I'm not much on knowing how to do anything with roses, but I do know microgreens. So let's talk a little bit about microgreens. How did you get started with that?
Well, one of the guys I served with in the Army, he worked for Club 33 in Disneyland in California, and he came to visit and took me to Disney World here in Orlando,
right.
Florida, and we were talking about the different culinary things he does at his restaurant, and he was a chef there, and he used a lot of microgreens. And since I was into farming, he said I should check it out. So I started doing research, and I bought a kit online at growingmicrogreens.com, and I started experimenting. I was working in a little restaurant and trying to help them try something new. And so for the past 2 years, I've been growing microgreens, selling at farmers markets and to different restaurants, and just you know, kind of learning the craft, because with minimal infrastructure, it's hard to grow year-round.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much seasonal thing right now until I can get more infrastructure.
Sure.
But I'm able to take the compost that I get from these restaurants and in turn make compost to sell them microgreens.
Fantastic. Lorenzo, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
We've been here for another episode of the Antique Roadshow with Lorenzo. And let's just take one final look at the bounty that he has in the back of his truck here. Thank you so much.